You woke up this morning and likely ate breakfast. Around noon, you grabbed lunch, and tonight you'll sit down for dinner. You do it every day, following a rhythm that feels as natural as breathing. Yet this schedule appears nowhere in ancient medical texts. No biological law mandates it, and no doctor ever sat down to prescribe 3 meals as the ideal human default. For 23,000 years, humans lived without the concept of a schedule. At sites like Ohala 2, the evidence shows hunter-gatherers ate whenever the hunt was successful or the foraging was lucky, oscillating between feast and hunger based on the environment. Our modern 3-meal routine is a social convention, a story written long after our ancestors stopped chasing their food and started growing it. Agriculture gave humanity its first reliable food supply around 10,000 BCE, but even then people didn't adopt a standard clock. Early farmers stayed in one place, but they still ate according to the season and the sun. Ancient Egyptians operated on a 2-meal system, a light morning snack of bread and beer, followed by a more substantial meal at the end of the day. The Romans, arguably history's most organized civilization, were deeply suspicious of eating more than once a day. They viewed their primary midday meal as the standard and considered multiple meals a form of gluttony. When European settlers arrived in the Americas, they were shocked by indigenous people who adjusted their intake with the seasons and followed no fixed daily schedule, a habit the Europeans dismissed as uncivilized. If these highly regimented ancient empires and resilient hunter-gatherers thrived without a 3-meal framework, we have to look for the specific pressures that finally forced the modern world into this rigid routine. The structure began to solidify in the 1500s with the British Royal Navy. Commanders needed a way to fuel sailors doing relentless physical labor at predictable intervals, and a shipboard routine of 3 set meals provided the solution. But the real shift happened during the Industrial Revolution. Millions of people left the seasonal rhythms of the farm for the rigid, standardized hours of the factory. In medieval Europe, breakfast was often discouraged, but it became a physical requirement to survive a 10 or 12-hour industrial shift. Skipping that morning fuel was no longer a spiritual discipline, it was a health hazard. Lunch became the mandated midday operational break, a pause in production designed to keep the machines and the people running in sync. The 3-meal structure was an organizational tool for factory life, developed to solve the problem of coordinating thousands of workers in a single, efficient shift. Before factories, the main meal happened at midday to catch the strongest natural light. As workers were kept inside until later afternoon, that substantial meal migrated to the evening. This shift was supported by the rapid adoption of artificial lighting, which allowed the workday and the wait for dinner to stretch long past sunset. In the early 20th century, commerce finished what industry started. John Harvey Kellogg began a massive marketing campaign to brand breakfast as the most important meal of the day to sell his newly invented cornflakes. Cereal companies turned the morning meal into a ritual. They didn't just sell food, they sold the idea that eating at this specific time was a requirement for a healthy, successful life. Our daily menu was effectively designed by a combination of naval commanders, strict factory managers, and cereal salesmen. Our circadian rhythm is the internal clock telling cells how to process food. Morning cortisol and insulin sensitivity peak, optimizing the body to convert carbohydrates into energy. Eating late at night does the opposite. Blood sugar stays high, sleep worsens, and fat storage increases. Our bodies eventually adapted through physiological food anticipation. Our hunger hormones actually learned to predict the industrial schedules, adjusting our chemistry to match the clock. Human biology doesn't demand 3 meals. It spent 2 centuries hacking its own systems to survive the artificial routine of the modern world. From a metabolic standpoint, the exact number of meals matters less than ensuring we eat while our bodies are prepared for it, during the daylight hours. But eating has always been about more than just calories. For over 23,000 years, gathering around food has been a primary way for humans to build trust and signal safety within a community. Social psychology shows that these recurring communal meals correlate with stronger social bonds and a sense of belonging. While the 3-meal schedule is a byproduct of factories and corporate marketing, the act of stopping to gather around a table remains one of humanity's most consistent ways to connect.